We're pleased to be joined to kick off the second hour of the program with Halle Saperstein. Halle Saperstein, the clinical dietitian at Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital, joins us on the MegaCast now to talk about the benefits of a healthy diet. Halle, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So let's talk about some of the efforts that are being undertaken by Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital and by Henry Ford Health System to help promote a healthy lifestyle. Because it's one thing to promote it and say, hey, we should be living a healthier lifestyle, we should be eating healthier, but it's another thing to show it in a way that's realistic to the average person and the average family. What are some of those ways that your team is helping to promote a healthy lifestyle in a way that is attainable and realistic for the average person?
We try to make things easy and attainable and things that you can do at home. One good thing to do is kick off your day with breakfast. So I thought maybe I should start with breakfast first.
Sure.
And go with that. So to start a healthy lifestyle eating breakfast sets your tone for the day. Eating a balanced breakfast includes eating a lot of macro and micronutrients to get your protein, complex carbs, and eating healthy fats. Breakfast also helps to kickstart your metabolism. A lot of people decide to sort of skip breakfast, but that also makes us very sluggish, makes our blood sugars go low, and we lose concentration during the course of the day. So it's really, really important to try to kickstart your time or kickstart your day with breakfast, especially going back to work. I know a lot of people have been home for so long, and now that we're returning to office and returning to school, consistency and scheduling breakfast is of utmost importance. I thought I might bring a few breakfast items today to show everybody.
Sure.
So it's really important to get your macronutrients, which are your carbohydrates, your protein, and your fat in your diet. Your carbohydrates are your immediate source of energy, so we need those right away. Eating whole grain breads, eating oatmeal, excellent sources. Protein helps to sustain you. So at every meal, you should consider getting a source of protein in. And fiber helps with fullness. So whenever you're looking at your carbs, make sure they're complex carbs, make sure they have fiber, at least 4 grams of fiber per serving. Our recommendation is 25 to 30 grams of fiber per day. So trying to get little bits here and there is very, very important because it's hard to get all at one time. It's almost nearly impossible. And then fat. We need fat in our diet. It helps us absorb vitamins, especially your vitamins A, D, E, and K. Those are your fat-soluble vitamins. And so you need that fat in your diet to help with that absorption. Fat also protects your heart, and it's also great for your brain health. So I thought I'd go and show you a couple meals that might be great kickstarts for your day.
Sure.
One of these is just simply, and these are all very, very easy. They take minutes. But this one is a whole grain waffle with some peanut butter and some fresh fruit. And then you can consider, if you wanted a dairy, you can also add a yogurt to that meal as well. This is a nice protein-rich meal. It's an egg sandwich and with some avocado. And you could do avocado slices, which is a great source of fiber, and then nice fresh fruit to go with it. This particular meal is a breadless egg sandwich. So it's actually 2 eggs with a nice healthy meat in the middle. And then the other item is a nice, easy way to you have some nuts, some yogurt, and a banana. So trying to promote breakfast is something that we really, really try to do with all of our patients here in the hospital and as well as our community.
So a lot of people that are trying to live a healthier lifestyle, the first place that they really struggle with in terms of what to incorporate into their regular diet are those fruits and those vegetables. And in some cases, the preparation time plays a factor. In some cases, it's the expense of fresh versus frozen. Is there a difference or a suggestion between using fresh vegetables and fresh fruits versus the frozen variety to incorporate those into our diets, as they are a very important part in living a healthy lifestyle?
Sure, that's a fantastic question. So fresh is always best. Unfortunately, sometimes fresh can be expensive. As we know, cost of food has gone up. So sometimes that's a challenge. One thing I do suggest, though, is looking at the circulars or going onto the Kroger apps or any of the local grocery store apps to look to see what's on sale that week, to see if you can incorporate some of those fresh fruits and vegetables that are fresh and on sale into your diet. As many times you can find, especially the seasonal vegetable or fruits like apples, for instance. Right now, those are a little bit less expensive than they are in the off-season time. But as far as, so fresh is best because you're getting nice, good fiber, especially fresh that's locally fresh. Because if it's locally picked, then it has its peak nutrients in it at that time. But if that's not an option, another great option is frozen. Frozen, they actually pick it, they blanch it right there, they freeze it, and they ship it. So actually the nutrients are pretty, consistent, and they're definitely in the frozen vegetable. So sometimes frozen is really, sometimes it actually has more nutrients than some of the fresh, because if you're not buying fresh that's locally picked, it's been on a truck for some time. And so again, the frozen has been blanched, picked, and bagged right away. So they retain the nutrients, the color, the flavor. One caveat with frozen is to avoid any in sauces like butters or stir fry mixes, because unfortunately what they do is they add a lot of sodium and they add a lot of unhealthy fats to those products. So the best thing to do is buy your own frozen vegetables and then to season them yourself. Also as far as frozen, the possibility of pathogens being in the frozen is less than if you bought if some of the fresh vegetables, you have to wash them right away. Well, the frozen's already been done. That's already been done for you, so that foodborne illnesses, the risk of that is very, very minimal with a frozen product. Also the other positive about frozen is that you can buy things that you could never find in our local grocery stores. You can find it in the frozen section. So it's a really good way to sort of add some bulk to some of your nice recipes that you're making. And the other negative, as far as there's frozen fruit that's out on the market, but it's really, really important to look at the label and make sure it doesn't have added sugar, and just make sure that it's in its own natural juices.
We're joined by Halle Saperstein. She is a clinical dietitian at Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital, joining us today on the MegaCast to talk about the importance of living a healthy diet. And particularly right now, Halle, in the fitness circles, but also in discussions about healthy nutrition, one of the buzz phrases or buzz topics right now is intermittent fasting. You mentioned earlier about the importance of a healthy breakfast to your daily health. And intermittent fasting, in some cases, makes that more of an emphasis, and in other cases, may make breakfast something that is avoided. What is intermittent fasting? Let's start with that. And then what benefits and drawbacks can it have on top of that to the average person's health and diet?
So the term intermittent fasting is used in a different variety or different ways. Sometimes people use that word intermittent fasting, meaning they're not going to eat 2 days a week and they're going to eat the other, 4 days or 5 days a week. Sometimes that means they're going to skip their breakfast and lunch and try to get all of their intake at dinner. I always promote lifestyle changes. And as far as intermittent fasting, it's definitely not the healthiest way to go about making a lifestyle change. Oftentimes our blood sugars are affected, our memory and our ability to concentrate is also affected from intermittent fasting. So as far as making a lifestyle change, I do not recommend intermittent fasting, and I just recommend eating every 4 to 5 hours to keep everything consistent, to keep your blood sugar consistent, to keep your memory and your concentration consistent.
We're joined by Halle Saperstein. She's the clinical dietitian over at Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital, joining us today to talk about living a healthy lifestyle, particularly making your diet as healthy as it can possibly be. And one way that people throw off a really healthy lifestyle, particularly a really healthy diet, is by adding unnecessary sugars and other chemicals into their diet. And commonly, that can be done quite easily through someone's morning coffee or afternoon coffee when they go out and they get some special drink that has a lot of added added stuff in it that ultimately is not as good for your health as maybe the coffee might be, or other things that you can put into your diet. So you have that. There is a recent blog post done through the Eat Well blogs through Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital about 7 ways to lighten up your go-to fancy coffee order. What are some ways that people can take their special coffee orders? They don't just want plain black coffee. They want something that has a little more flavor and a little more taste and excitement to it. How can they get that but not sacrifice the benefits of the coffee, and on top of that put their overall health and diet at risk?
Absolutely. Great question. Oftentimes we do go to our local coffee places and we want a nice frozen beverage or an iced coffee. Unfortunately, sometimes those are laden with a lot of different creams and sugars, but there's a lot of different ways you can make them still taste tasty and get a lot less sugar. Just to give you a little bit of backstory on the sugar content, some of these coffees have 17 teaspoons of sugar per cup. If we're ordering some of the specialty coffees, our recommendation for a healthy adult is no more than 6 teaspoons of added sugar for women and 9 teaspoons of added sugar for men. So take that into account, that sometimes your coffee can have 3 times as much added sugar as it is recommended in your healthy diet. So one way to make that coffee healthier is what I say, skip the whip. That means don't add whipped cream, but maybe add some non-fat foam. It's just skim milk that they just foam on top. And they can also add a little bit more milk in there to just give you a little bit more calcium into your coffee drink and make it a little healthier too. That way, you could also use soy milk, hemp milk, almond milk. All of the local coffee places are now offering a lot of different types of milk. Another great milk out on the market, and some of the coffee stores will have it, is oat milk. Another great way to do your coffee is make it at home. Buy yourself a foamer for home. Buy yourself a nice coffee maker, and you'll save a ton of money. And you'll also make sure that the drink is a lot healthier.
We're joined by Halle Saperstein. She is the clinical dietitian at Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital, joining us today to talk about improving your diet and making your diet much more healthier as you attempt to live a healthier lifestyle. And when people talk about a healthy diet, timing is something that often comes up in that conversation. Some will say you should be eating several small meals, but eating them every few hours. Some still are subscribing to the 3 square meals a day with occasional snacks theory. What do you suggest for people? Should it be different from one person to another based on their lifestyle, or is there kind of a one-size-fits-all suggestion that you would provide to the general public?
It definitely varies. It varies on people's exercise levels. It varies on the time that they're awake. Many people are awake for 16 plus hours. Unfortunately, they're not getting the sleep that they need. But our recommendation is to keep your blood sugars in check and to keep yourself, again, with your concentration and your activity, your energy level up. You want to make sure you're eating every 4 to 5 hours. So in other words, if you wake up at, say, 8 a.m., you want to make sure you eat breakfast soon after you wake, and then eat a healthy lunch by 12 or 1, and then dinner by 5 or 6. If that's not possible, that's where you integrate snacks. And I've included a few snacks I brought with me today. One of them is just a nice protein bar, especially if you're doing any type of exercise. A lot of people will leave work and they go right to the gym. Their activity level is just very, very poor. So trying to get some type of snack in as well as some fluid into their bodies is going to give them their optimal exercise ability.
We're joined by Halle Saperstein. She is the clinical dietitian over at Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital with us on the MegaCast. And commonly when people make a push to live a healthier lifestyle, they start to focus on their diet, but many of them are going in blind. What are some common mistakes that you see or that you hear about often for people that seek your consultation or others a consultation on your team over Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital? What are some of those common mistakes that people make as they're aiming to live a healthier lifestyle that ultimately throws off their plans, albeit probably in a way that's quite innocent and just for a lack of knowledge?
A lot of people just decide to fast. We were talking about the intermittent fasting, and that's sort of the new buzzword, the new go-to type diet to decide I'm going to lose weight. Well, unfortunately, your body decides to store calories, and you don't lose the weight that you might think you're going to lose. There might be an initial slow, small weight loss, but long term, that's not the way to go. And also, they decide to cut different food groups from their diet. You always want to make sure that at each meal you're incorporating as many of our food groups as you can. You definitely, our bodies need different micro and macronutrients throughout the day. And unfortunately, a lot of times when people are dieting, they lose sight of that, and they lose that, ability to take in those foods because they think they're forbidden foods, or they think that they're, foods that are not going to allow them to lose that weight that they want. Also, a lot of times people decide to decrease their appetite or decrease their intake and decide not to exercise because they feel that they're going to lose the weight. But long term, we really want to build that muscle mass because lean muscle mass is the best way to, our bodies, use a lot more energy the more muscle we have. And so if you're not exercising, you're not burning as many calories. So you're definitely slowing your metabolism down by just cutting back food and not exercising.
We're joined by Halle Saperstein. She is a clinical dietitian over at Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital. Halle, just another couple minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. Any last words of advice for people that are aiming to live a healthier lifestyle, change their diet to make it healthier for their activity levels, or just in general as they're trying to lose weight or fight off disease, or just simply eat healthier?
Enjoy your food. Eat your meals, eat again every 4 to 5 hours. Make sure you're incorporating all the food groups. Make sure when you look at your carbs, they're whole grains. A lot of people will start eliminating carbs from their diet. Don't. They're great for you. They're the immediate sources of energy, but just make sure they're the whole grains. They have fiber. And exercise and drink fluids. It's very, very important to make sure you're getting a lot of fluid in throughout the day. Water is definitely your best friend.
Well, Halle, we appreciate your time. Thanks for your insight and for all this information. I'm sure it will be very helpful to people as they head into the holidays and into the new year, where a lot of people do then aim to live a healthier lifestyle. Thank you.
Thank you.